The Internal Revenue Service discovered more than 1 million U.S. taxpayers had their identities stolen by illegal immigrants. Between 2011 and 2015, the IRS flagged nearly 1 million returns that appeared to have a stolen Social Security number. But a Treasury Department watchdog reveals the IRS never told any of the victims. Investigators first alerted the IRS to the problem 5 years ago, but it's still not fixed. The agency has said they are working to find a solution.
A man praying on Clemson University's campus was asked to leave by an administrator. He was reportedly asked to leave because he was not in a designated free speech zone. A member of Young Americans for Freedom is questioning that policy after praying with the man. The Young Americans for Freedom Club plans to pressure Clemson to stop its policy of restricting speech on a public campus, especially when it comes to prayer.
Clowns are reportedly terrorizing a town in South Carolina. Police in Greenville County are creeped out after several claims of a clown or clowns trying to lure children into the woods. According to a police report, children told officers clowns had displayed large amounts of money. The children also said the clowns lived in a house located near a pond at the end of a man-made trail in the woods. Police have gone to the house but have not been able to find any clothing or anything that indicates someone lives there. Police are taking these reports seriously, but the sightings are still unconfirmed. There are increased patrols in the areas where clowns are said to have been
The American
spotted.
Center for Law and Justice is suing the Obama administration for doing nothing to stop Christian genocide. CBN News interviewed Jordan Seculo, the executive director of the ACLJ, for some answers.
There were other countries talking about it, but the U.S. diplomats were totally silent, and we weren't hearing anything from our administration. We weren't seeing action at the Security Council.
The Obama administration is still silent and has until the end of September to respond to the lawsuit. Meanwhile, Seculo says Christians should fight the genocide.
We have a duty to act, and one of the things we can do is to talk about it. You know, it's not a pleasant thing to talk about, but especially because it's happening to our own brothers and sisters, our fellow Christians. I think we have a duty to tell each other and inform other Christians about it.
Come out here now! Now! Do it now! Come here! I want to tase you! Do it now! Man, get down! Get down! Get down! Get down! I made it go down. What I do? I made it go down. Turn around! Fucking don't turn around! Don't put your hand around! Turn around! I ain't turning around for shit! Turn around and face that way! What the f*** did I do? Turn around and face that way. Turn around and face that way now, or I'll spray you. To the police. Hey, yeah, hey, man. Hey, my mama's 84 years old, mother. Hey, man. Oh, Lord. Mercy, help me, Jesus. Lord, help me, Lord. Help me, Lord. Oh, Lord, Jesus. Lord, help me. Help me. Lord, I made it go. Help me, Jesus. Lord. Help me, Jesus.
Some scandals are so massive that they're simply hard to believe. But this one is true. As many as 1 million white English children may have been the victims of Muslim rape gangs, better known as grooming gangs, in towns up and down Great Britain. Policy analyst George Igler.
I mean, when you counter an issue that is just so unbelievable, just so outside your frame of reference and understanding, the immediate human reaction is just not want to believe it at all.
Perhaps even harder to believe is that while there have been prosecutions, British authorities have still not stopped this criminal activity. There's a particular problem involving Pakistani heritage men who target young, vulnerable white English girls. Not my words, but a member of Parliament, Jack Straw, who also said these Pakistani heritage men view white English girls as, quote, easy meat. This is when some shout racism, but here are the facts. Calculations based on convictions show that a British Muslim male is 170 times more likely to be part of a sex grooming gang than a non-Muslim. And there are no recorded instances of non-Muslims doing this to Muslim girls as part of a criminal enterprise. In one local jurisdiction, it was estimated that 6 out of 7 Muslim males either knew about or were part of a grooming gang. The grooming gangs have been traced back as far as the late 1980s. At-risk white English girls, often from broken homes and some as young as 9 years old, were wooed or groomed by teenage Muslim boys called Romeos, and even by groups of Muslim men who hung around school gates. The plan was to make the girl feel important. She was given gifts and drugs, but she was being groomed to be a drug-addicted prostitute. Then came the gang rapes. The girls were threatened with death if they tried to flee.
It's not just sexual abuse. It is unspeakable levels of violence. Victims being raped with knives, victims being raped with bottles, victims having their tongue nailed to tables. These are sometimes girls who are being picked up from children's homes on a Friday, are being raped during the course of the weekend by hundreds of men, and then returned with bleeding groins back to the children's homes on a Monday morning, and they don't do anything about it at all.
Originally, President Obama promised that the Fed's handover of the Antitrust-Protected Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, or ICANN, would not involve the United Nations.
If we fall for, a bunch of okey doke.
Was this yet again a naive move by an incompetent president of the United States, or has this been the plan all along? Time and time again, Congress has failed to pass draconian laws to control the internet. The Communications Decency Act of 1996, the Intellectual Property Enforcement Act of 2007, the Cybersecurity Act, the Protect IP Act of 2011, and SOPA, to name a few, all failed miserably against the ironclad integrity of the First Amendment. The globalists, scurrying to their den of iniquity at Bilderberg, would hear none of it. Their very fortunes and lives depend on it. The public knows too much already. Control of the internet had to be torn from the protection of the U.S. Constitution. Larry Strickland of the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, a Commerce Department agency which has overseen ICANN since 1998, said, "We will not accept a proposal that replaces the NTIA role with a government-led or an intergovernmental solution. Now, after the full weight of Edward Snowden's revelations opened a treasure trove, the United States, in pure Hegelian dialectic fashion, offered to cede control to a multi-stakeholder, i.e. lobbyist-dominated model. That's right, the internet will be in the hands of lobbyists, the very bottom feeders of the whims of globalism. How bad is it? In the intervening years, the United Nations and the European Union had jostled for control of the internet. During a meeting in Dubai, the International Telecommunications Union, the telecom branch of the United Nations, demanded rules governing the internet to be rewritten. Specifically, the international organization proposed deep packet inspection authority that would allow it to monitor and censor content on the internet. The United States walked out of that conference in protest. What appears to be the mundane task of assigning parking spaces for internet businesses will more than likely face in the very near future a level of censorship that will make the free-thinking people of the World Wide Web's heads spin. The Inquisition 2.0. The European Union has proposed the creation of a censorship and mass surveillance framework for EU countries funded by the European Commission. The Clean IT Project webpage explains the plan called for police to patrol Facebook and other social networks in search of extremist material and propaganda, in addition to allowing users to flag terrorist content and turn others into the police. In addition to censorship, the ICANN transfer will allow for a globalist taxation scheme. Former Bush administration State Department senior advisor Christian Whitten told the Daily Caller, if the UN gains control of what amounts to the directory and traffic signals of the internet, it can impose whatever taxes it likes. It likely would start with a tax on registering domains and expand from there.
Transition that stewardship to the global community.
Fadi Chahadi has been the CEO at ICANN since 2012. After having negotiated the full-scale globalization of the internet, Chahadi will be aptly rewarded by the New World Order, acting as a senior advisor at Abry Partners, a private equity firm that controls an already monopolized media. Also as a co-chair of the newly formed World Internet Conference in Wuzhen, China. And last but not least, a senior advisor to Klaus Schwab, founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum. Schwab attended Bilderberg in 2016. An internal proposed strategy from George Soros's Open Society Justice Initiative calls for international regulation of private actors' decisions on, quote, what information is taken off the internet and what may remain, end quote. Those regulations, the document notes, should favor, quote, those most supportive of open society, end quote. Open Society being George Soros's organization. Soros and company, rather than striking directly at free speech progenitors like Infowars.com, are 1 month away from recklessly pulling the rug out from under everything. Now that ICANN has relinquished control of the medium, globalist institutions can move forward with plans to scrub the internet of all content unacceptable to the global elite and their minions at the United Nations.